Hi everyone, Tim the Plane Man here. Happy New Year 2025. Welcome to Plane Time SIYI Uni RC7 edition. What I'm going to do is talk to you about the new era handheld ground station from SIYI. After the ArcPilot Developer Conference in Kaga in Japan, I visited China and I visited the SIYI offices in Shenzhen in China, and I was introduced to the brand new handheld RC controller and ground station and saw some of the testing, and now I have one here and I am going to be putting this into one of my MFE Striver Mini VTOL planes and I'm going to be flying it. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm going to connect it to the SIYI A8 Mini camera that I already have, that you've seen in some of my videos already, and if you haven't, here's the link, check it out. But what we're going to do now is we're going to unbox this. We're going to have a look at some of the features and capabilities of this amazing new ground station. I'm really looking forward to it. And I'll talk about some of the differences between the standard edition and the Pro edition. And then I'll look at some of the setups and talk a little bit about what we're going to do next. So let's take a look inside the box. As you can see, this is sealed, unopened. I haven't even looked inside. So let's see what we get inside the box. I have to say, the box itself is pretty nice. Oh wow, okay, that's huge. Look, I have seen one of these before. I saw it when I was at the SIYI offices, but I didn't really have an impression that it was as big as this. This is big. It has a huge screen, and fitting in my hand, it's very, very comfortable. And let's see what we have here. We have 4 sets of antennas. So that's kind of interesting because what we have potentially is a dual 2.4, 5.8 gigahertz control link. And so with 4 sets of antennas, I have a funny feeling that this is the advanced version. We have an antenna for, I believe this will be for the air unit, and this will be the air unit itself. Oh, here's a second antenna, and I think that might be, so 2 antennas for the air unit. And when I say air unit, what we're talking about here is the receiver, what goes in the plane. The air unit, because it's more than just a radio receiver, right? It's going to transmit video back to the ground station as well. So here's the air unit itself. This goes in the plane. We'll talk a little bit about what it's got as well. And we have a charger for the controller, and we've got our sticks for the control, and I think what we have here is the kind of a mounting bracket for holding it. So we'll put that together and see how that comes together. And I'm going to assemble the whole thing and then we're going to fire it up and take a look at what we've got. But basically what we have here is, this is a 7-inch HD large screen. It's got 1700 nits of brightness, so it should be perfectly usable in sunlight with adaptive brightness. We've got the air unit, and there's 4 antennas on that air unit and only 2 antennas here. I'm wondering about that. We'll figure that out. We've got a bunch of cables here. That will be the charging unit for the controller. This is the Ethernet cable. These are the connectors for inside the box. And we'll figure all of these out as we go. And then a strap. This will be, and it's more than just a lanyard because it's a complete grounds, like a harness. So this is how the harness works for the controller. The strap goes around your back like this, and then the 2 hooks hook onto these 2 attachments that come in the box, and basically it gives you, it's a very comfortable hold for controlling the screen, but also, for example, to use the touch screen, I can take my hands off. It doesn't flop around like it would with a lanyard on a typical controller. It's really quite a nice design. It'll be comfortable for using the controller out on the field. This is something special that SIYI did just for me. The standard controller comes as mode 2, which for most of you will mean aileron and elevator on the right hand control stick and throttle and rudder on the left hand side. Now I've asked them to switch it and give me mode 1, and also to give me a non-centering throttle stick. You notice the throttle is not moving, is basically it's not centering. So here the stick centers, and here the left stick centers and the right stick centers, but up and down doesn't center. And that's a special request. I asked my friends at SIYI if they would do that for me, and because I fly mostly fixed wing and I come to the world of UAVs and drones from fixed wing, that is just much easier for me to fly, so I've done that. So I've plugged in the controller into the charger using the provided charger, and as you can see here, there's one solid light and then 3 blinking lights as it's charging. That means we've got a 25% charge. So I'm going to go ahead and fire it up based on that charge, and let's see what happens when we turn on the power. So it should be 1 press and then hold. There we go. Here it comes. That looks pretty, doesn't it? I have never started this before, so this is just brand new. Please insert a SIM card. Well, I don't have a SIM card. Okay, so we have the device powered up here, and so what you notice is, and this was the thing that I wanted to basically confirm, the device comes out of the box set up to run in Chinese. And so what we have to do, the very first thing we have to do is to change the language. There is a 150-page manual for this device available on the SIYI website. You can download it. The manual is completely in English and very good English, and there is a section in the manual that changes how to switch the system language, which is at section 2.1.4 on page 30. So here's how we do it. Swipe up from the bottom to enter the Android settings menu. What we need to do is to click this option here with the settings bar. Now go down to find system language, which has a little exclamation mark or I on it. And the very first one with the little globe, the picture of the world globe, that is the menu option for change the language. Again, the very first option here, language, and by default it's set to Chinese. What we need to do is add a new language, and we'll add English Canada. Drag that to number 1, and as you can see, the languages have now switched. We're back to here, and now all of the apps show up in English. We're ready to set up the device as a controller using some of the English setup steps. So here's an interesting little thing you'll need to know to do something simple like type stuff on the keyboard on your controller. By default, the SIYI controller comes with a keyboard that seems to be running in Chinese. You start typing in a word, and when you type, the Chinese character for what's called pinyin, which is a way to type English letters to generate Chinese characters, comes up, and you can't actually type an English word. So what you need to do is see this button here, the bottom right hand corner, right beside the main action button. It's currently showing Zhong, which is Zhongguo, which is China, right? So what you need to do is press that button there, and that will switch to, and I'm not sure what that sign is. I'll ask and I'll find out what it is. But now you can type in English. So the antennas are quite important as well. This seems to be the Pro version, which has 5.8 gigahertz and 2.4 gigahertz antennas. Now on the control unit, these antennas are SMA female antennas, and basically this is how you need to be careful about getting the antennas correct. So these are 5.8 gigahertz, and notice on the air unit it has 4 antennas, and 2 of them will be female and 2 of them will be male, and there's only one way it works. So for example, I had previously assumed that the black antenna here went onto the controller. It actually doesn't, because these are female and these are female, so you wouldn't get an antenna circuit and it wouldn't work. So good that I didn't turn it on there. You need to make sure that the correct antennas go onto the correct inputs for the air unit and for the ground unit. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the basic setup and calibration of the controller. To do that, what we do is we start GCS, 2 dots at the top, and then the second menu here, which gives you the menu of all of the configurations and settings options. First, we're going to go to stick mode. Now, this is obviously coming with standard configuration for this for the controller, and as I mentioned earlier, I have a special configuration here because what I have is mode 3, and I want left, right, forward, backward on here. So it's going to be Chinese, I think. And then my right stick is going to be up, down, or throttle, and turn left, turn right, or aileron. So we're going to try Chinese and see how that goes in terms of giving me what I want. So we've got our stick mode. Now we're going to do our remote control calibration. So what we do is set both sticks in the middle position, and what we do is we calibrate. Do not touch the joysticks. Push all the joysticks to the ends. This is just like you would do on a standard controller, but notice that we have this extra joystick here, which is a really nice little feature of this controller. We've got an extra joystick controlled with my left thumb, which is specifically for use with the camera. So we can do pan tilt using this little joystick here instead of trying to use a slider, which is really quite awesome. So let's just move the joysticks around. All right, we're done. Let's do the dial wheel. We calibrated the controller. So I brought the Brolga, the Strider Mini in here because inside here we have the A8 Mini, the CE A8 Mini camera installed physically in the plane, and it's a bit difficult to remove. So what I've got is I've got a camera underneath recording that camera. If you come and have a look over here, what you can see is all of the components that I've got installed. So it's the same stuff that I had before. I have the air unit, the SIYI UniRC7 air unit. I have it wired to the A8 Mini here via the LAN port. So this is the LAN cable connection to the SIYI A8 Mini. That's the only connection required to the camera from the air unit. I have my Zealot H743 flight controller that I just set up for test purposes. It has this wire here, which is S-Bus, connected to the RC in. And then it has 2 UARTs, one on each side. So the UART 1 and UART 2 are connected, and I've connected those to UART 3 and 4 on the flight controller, and they're running at 112.500 baud. Well, let's power it up and see what happens on the GCS when we fire up the air unit. So as you can see, the lights come on the side of the air unit here, and first we get a blinking red light, and in a second we'll get a connection. Here we go, we're getting a green light coming up, and as soon as the green light comes up on the air unit, on the ground unit, bingo, there we have the telemetry information, no ground speed, oh my goodness, and we've got a camera feed. There it is, there is the camera. So the C-A8 mini camera, okay, when I'm putting my hand in there, what's the lag? And I tell you, the lag seems pretty good actually. Okay, so we're getting live video at, I'm not sure what data rate, and I guess that'll be a thing to figure out later on, but it's definitely working. So we can control that gimbal camera just by putting my finger on the screen and then moving my finger. I can point the gimbal camera. So we move around, the gimbal camera is pointing to the right, the gimbal camera is pointing up. I can go up, I can go down. All right, the next interesting thing that the controller can do is, this is the Pro controller, so it has an HDMI port on the top here. So if I connect an HDMI cable to the controller like this, there you have the full controller screen displayed in all its glory on my my LED monitor, and it's an HDMI screen. Now, one other thing that I could potentially do with that, because it's HDMI, I could potentially connect my goggles, my HD0 goggles, because they have an HDMI input, so that'd be quite interesting. I could actually potentially fly with this. It's very cool. Now let's deal with the last piece of this very interesting set of capabilities. There's just so much that this thing can do. A question that I was asked by Tridge about this controller is, well, this is a custom piece of software, this UniGCS software from SIYI. But what if I wanted to run QGroundControl or Mission Planner or Mav Proxy to control the autopilot? Well, the thing about the GCS software is it's the radio controller. It's not trying to be an autopilot ground station. So how do you use an autopilot ground station? Well, there's several different ways. When we have a live feed from the controller here, we can set these two data link options here, and there's several different options for data transmission. There is upgrade, which means USB, there is Bluetooth, there is UART, and there's UDP, and UDP means you can use Wi-Fi. So if you have the controller connected to Wi-Fi, you can connect your ground station, i.e. a Android tablet, a Android phone, or a Windows PC. And that's what I've done here. So I have Bluetooth and UDP both set up. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come over to my Windows machine. So here we have Mission Planner. And what Mission Planner can do is it can connect to Bluetooth, because you saw on the controller that I have Bluetooth enabled, and I can connect to Bluetooth, and it will connect to the controller over Bluetooth. It will download parameters, and it happens pretty quick over Bluetooth. I'm really quite impressed with that. I'm not sure what's up with that, where Mission Planner sometimes backs off on the progress bar on the Mav FTP. Seems to be a new feature of Mission Planner recently, but it's still going to finish pretty quickly. And there it is. And we're now connected to the flight controller, and if I move the flight controller, you can see it's live, it's active, and we have full access to all the parameters, and we can fully use Mission Planner to control the plane. But what we can also do, we could also connect QGroundControl from my Windows PC to the controller and fully use QGroundControl. So let's do that.
Macro flight mode.
There it is, it's connecting. downloading parameters. Everything's loaded. It's telling us things aren't set up, which is fine. And we have QGroundControl connected. And if I, for example, change the flight mode, it shows up over here. If I change the flight mode over here, it changes it on the controller. Here it is up there. So it's fully connected. So I think that's pretty much everything. This controller works really, really nicely. I have full control of, oh, you know what? There's one other thing I probably need to show you. Let's just quickly do that. I haven't shown
compass not calibrated.
The radio, and if I show the radio, not only is everything else working, but the radio controls are working. My left stick is my roll and pitch, and my right stick is my throttle and my rudder, and my mode buttons down here change the mode.
Your flight mode. Acro flight mode. Prayer 3D accelerometer.
Plus I've set up some of the switches and controls on here so that
return to launch flight mode.
So that I've got the full control of the vehicle from the controller. Plus I can control the gimbal by touching the screen. So it's fully working. This is this new Uni RC7 flight control system, really, because it's the controller, it's the air unit, and it's full connectivity from autopilot back to the ground station for full management of your UAV, drone, RC plane, ideally with camera control. It's a very, very nice piece of hardware and software, and I'm looking forward to the next step, which will be putting it in a plane, trying to figure out which plane to put it into, and then throwing it in the air and seeing it fly. That will be a lot of fun. Tim the Plane Man, over and out.